myself.
Okay, so I've started the recording, but I will, when I post the video to YouTube, I'll cut off the section with everybody's faces so you don't have your face on the internet without your consent. And now I will start sharing my screen. Let me just get to the place where I want to be. Okay. This one, share it. Okay, and just a minute. Let me just make sure I got everything set up right here. Okay.
I think it does help if we stop our videos. Everyone, if you can stop your video, then it doesn't take all of the bandwidth or whatever it's called. You can still see everything.
I was just gonna pin my video here.
Okay.
So nobody else's will be visible and it shouldn't be a problem if anyone else has theirs on.
Okay.
So I'll just pin it so that you guys can still see my happy face.
Absolutely.
Okay, so welcome to Come Sail Away, part 3 of German research for the everyday American. I am Corinne Moses. I'm a professional genealogist. I specialize in German and Portuguese research. Also love New England research because I'm a native New Englander and those are my people. Okay, so we're gonna start. This is actually a more natural continuation from the first part of the lecture, which was finding your hometown. That was part 1, because in that part we talked about how to find the town, the name of the town where your German ancestor came from. And so now we're going to find out, once you know the name of your town, how do we find out where your German ancestor, where you'll find records about them. So I actually pulled a couple examples from people in this class. I don't think that the owner of this hometown is here tonight, but hopefully they'll be able to watch it later. So this one, I believe it was Peg who said her relative was saying that it always sounded like she was saying our ancestors are from Berlin, but it was actually Balin, which is this spelling here, which is, and she said her ancestor said it was Berlin Westfalen, which Berlin is in Brandenburg, the Berlin everybody knows about. So she kind of came to this conclusion, it must be Balin. So I took that hometown and I want to use it as an example of how we can find church records. Church records to start with, because most of us, our ancestors will be from a time period where church records are the most easily accessible. And they kind of covered everybody in the area. So if your ancestors are from 1900 and closer to us, then there are a lot of other sources that are also available, and even in the second half of the 1800s. And we'll talk about a couple of those because they're really fun and they can really save you if you need them. So we talked about Myers Gazetteer before, and so I'm not gonna explain the websites again. You can go back and watch the previous lectures for those. But this is Myers Gazetteer. It's called myersgaz.org, but if you want to get here, you have to put in .com. I'm not sure why. It's just always been that way as far as I can remember. So I typed in Balin up here, and this is the only option that came up, which is always kind of relieving, and later you'll see why. So If we click on this, then we can get some data on that town. Like this is kind of jurisdictional data. This is from the original Myers Gazetteer. It's a very large set of books that takes up this much shelf space. I have them right here next to me. So here's the jurisdictional data. So if you are in a time period when there were civil records, their birth, marriage, and death that are made by the town or the city instead of the church, then you're gonna wanna look at the STDA. It stands for Standesamt, which is like the city hall. That's where they keep those civil records. And so in this place, it had its own Standesamt. Some places were small enough that they were just taken care of under another Standesamt, and it will tell you here. One of my favorite parts of Myers Gazetteer is the map. So you can get there either by clicking map here or by just clicking on this map. And then you can toggle historical map, which means you can see the modern map and then go back to historical. Okay, so it's so fun to know that your ancestors lived in a certain place, see it on the map. If it's like a small enough town, so there'll be like little dots for dwellings. And here you can see like these dots will represent buildings. And sometimes it will have just like the little tiny villages around all those names. And it's also very important in research sometimes to be able to see the surrounding towns, because sometimes your ancestors are there or those towns might be mentioned in a record. Like if your ancestor from Belen married somebody from Holtrup, you're like, oh, where is Holtrup? You can look at the map, and a lot of times it will be just right around that place where your ancestors lived. And it's really fun to be able to look at the map and find it there. Okay, so I said we were gonna focus a lot on church records right now. And so ecclesiastical is one helpful place to find the church records. So this has, it tells you the names of the places and if they had a Catholic church or a Protestant church or a synagogue. And then it goes by distance in miles to the next closest parishes. So that can be very helpful. Also, one thing to point out is that sometimes the rows just seem to get off because you're like, okay, were there 3 Catholic parishes and 1 Protestant parish and 1 synagogue? It just, I think, needs a little bit of straightening out sometimes. But usually if you just do a tiny bit of research, you can find out exactly what it is. Here, it seems like there are enough numbers that we could figure it out. But sometimes there's like one column just in the middle of Catholic and Protestant, and you're like, which one was it? So need a little bit of research to straighten that out. But okay, so in Belen, there was a parish, a Catholic parish in Belen. And so that's great. That's where we're going to start looking for these people. And there are 2 places that I was able to find those records. And I'm going to start with family search. And I went into the catalog and just put in the place name. And this is what it came up with. And there are all of these sets of records. It just kind of grouped them according to however they were on the microfilm, but these ones have been digitized. They also have this magnifying glass, which means you can search them in a digital index. Sometimes this will save you a ton of time, but I also want to give you a warning. If you really think that something should be in a certain place and it has a magnifying glass and you try the digital index and nothing comes up, search it anyways, but go into the records, go into the images and search by the location or the time period and the specific record you're looking for. Because this past week I've been working on a family and they were in Westfalen, and I looked and there was one child's christening in the index. And I was like, that's really weird because there are these other records that say that this family, it looks like they just lived here the whole time at this, like they lived on this one farm the whole time and they only had one kid. That's very strange. But then I decided to go through and look through the records, and there was a child born every 2 years. But it just didn't, it's possible the index wasn't finished, or that for some reason they were missed, or something just went technologically horribly wrong and it's not working right now. So that's just a warning. Like these magnifying glass searches, they can really save you a lot of time, but they can also be misleading if something was missed or if it was indexed incorrectly. Sometimes the indexing is done by someone who doesn't know the German handwriting really well, and so they can be typing in the wrong thing for the index. So that's just important to know. And I'm not signed into Family Search. Hold on, I'm just going to stop sharing real quick because this is kind of an important thing to do. We have to do a bit of computer swapping between mine and my husband's work, so sometimes I get signed out. Okay. Okay, so let me just go back one step. So we were looking at this and I clicked on the little magnifying glass and that brought us to this search. And so you could just put your ancestor's name in here and see if anything comes up. And if that's where you think, if you're pretty sure they should be there, then like I said, you need to go back and check if they don't come up in that index. And as you can see right now, these cameras have little keys on top of them. And that's because all of the record sets have different restrictions on them. Some of the contracts were made a very long time ago, and they said these records can be viewed at the Family History Library in Salt Lake, period. And so if they're digitized, you can still only see them there. And there are lots of different contracts that were made for these family search records. And the library is very good at holding to those contracts so that they are able to maintain the best relationships possible and hopefully expand their access in the future. So if I click on this one, it says you have to view them at a family history center or family search affiliate library. So I'm not sure if the Wolfboro Public Library is a family search affiliate library. I don't remember if I heard that or not.
It is.
It is. Okay. So if you come across one that says a family search affiliate library, you can go and view it at the Wolfboro Public Library. You can also click on it and you can search by your address, what one is closest to you, because they're all over the world. So wherever you are, hopefully you'll be able to find a place to view the records without, you might have to drive a little ways, but it's better than driving to Salt Lake. Some things, like I said, you can only see in Salt Lake. And it seems like there are a lot stricter restrictions on Catholic Church records. And so I'm going to show you another place that you can view Catholic Church records with no restrictions. So this is called Matricula Online, and I'm just going to actually start this go back to the start page for this. So I'll just read their little intro. Welcome to Matricula. Here you can find church registers, mostly books for birth, marriage, and death from various European countries, currently Austria, German, Poland, Serbia, and Slovenia. And so this is for Catholic church records. So if you're definitely looking for someone in a Protestant church, this website is not going to be helpful. If you're looking for someone in a Catholic church, this is awesome. Okay, and this project actually started in Austria, and I'm not sure if they have all Austrian church books, but it's most of them. From what I've been told, I haven't done much research in Austria, so I haven't used this website a ton. But you can do a quick search by clicking on the magnifying glass, and we're going to test our place, B.O.R, and see what it comes up with. Okay, and here we have B.O.R, and let's see. Okay, sorry. So the church is St. Johannes der Täufer, and then Warendorf is, if we go back to this one, Warendorf was one of the nearby parishes 6 miles away. So that's another one that came up. But here we're actually looking in the town of B.O.R. And just down here, this is breaking up. Okay, these are the records that we have. Baptisms in this range. These are all of their baptism records, then marriages, deaths. So if you click on the camera, and I'm going to pick one that's a little more recent because the older ones look a bit different. So we have the church records right here. And one thing that I love about this is that they're digital images. Like, this isn't black and white off of microfilm. And I've definitely had instances where I've been looking at one of these and there's a certain stain, or it's usually if you can see the actual color of the paper and the ink, sometimes the ink is too light to read it well. And in that case, I might go and see if there are some digitized microfilm records on Family Search, so I can compare them. And sometimes the microfilm records, I can turn up the contrast and it makes it easier, or turn down the contrast, just mess with the photo settings. And sometimes you're able to read it in one format and not the other. So if you ever have a hard time in one record set, see if there's a duplicate set somewhere else, for like Matricula Online and Family Search, both having a copy of these records. Obviously, in this case, if you don't have to go to a Family Search affiliate library, but you can just view these records for free from the comfort of your own home, then that's the best case scenario. But if you run into any trouble with that, then you can always try the other one. Okay, so that was an example of a fairly easy a town. There's only one town. It's fairly easy to find. Next, I want to go on to another example from someone that attends the group. Their ancestor is from Wolfsbach, and there are 7 Wolfsbachs. And so we knew 2 things about this. They were from Bayern and they were from Wolfsbach, or Bayern or Bavaria. Bayern is how you say Bavaria in German. And all 7 of these Wolfsbachs are in B.Y.O.R. So that is not helpful as a limiting factor in this particular case. And so there was no other specific information about where this person was from that would narrow down, that would be able to eliminate any of these options. And so I just opened up a tab for each of them and I put it on the map feature, so that you guys can see the relative proximity of all of these places, because it just kind of like blew my mind and I just thought, why would you do this? But you know, the coming about of places, if you've ever driven through Boston, it's not always the most effective things that we come up with. So here's Wolfsbach number 1, and it's not on the map like I said it was. Here we go. So that's Wolfsbach number 1. I'm just going to flip through them because I think this is funny that they're all, sorry, the Zoom settings are trying to intrude. Okay. So they're all like right here, which is crazy. And now we're going to look a little bit more about each of those places. So this first one, if we look at ecclesiastical, it's Wolfsbach, and I'm pretty sure these are all supposed to be in the Catholic parishes line. That's what I was mentioning about it being difficult to find. And I did try to find this parish or any one of these parishes on Matricula, but the only Wolfsbachs they have are in Austria, and I'll just show you that real quick. Wolfsbach. So they have all of these entries for Wolfsbach, but Österreich, this word right here is how you say Austria. Sorry, I'm going to just increase my screen a bit, because I remember from the last time that was helpful. So I'm sorry that I just remembered that now. Okay, so yes, all of these entries are from Österreich. So this one's unfortunately not going to be helpful in finding the correct Wolfsbach. And I searched on Family Search. They also don't have a Wolfsbach there. And oh, okay. I just admitted our friend Isaac. Hello, Isaac. We're in the middle of it, so we'll talk to you at the end, but welcome. Okay, so on the next Wolfsbach, under ecclesiastical, there is no church in Wolfsbach. And so this is Meyer's Gazetteer saying, okay, these are the next closest churches that we know of. So sometimes I will go by this and just say, okay, let's see. Emtmansberg. Let's look for records there. And usually if the first one doesn't work out, then I'll go back to the map and try to find it on my own, because sometimes, so Emtmansberg is very close. Sometimes when we put on, if we look at, let's look at the, this one was actually Protestant. Look at the Protestant parishes. Sometimes there are two that are pretty equidistant. So we're like, well, Myers said that Emtmansberg was the closest one, but let's also try Neunkirchen, because that is pretty darn close, and depending on the road there, maybe one was better than the other to go to. Okay, and then, and so those are Protestant parishes, and so we can look for that on Family Search, and we can also look on Archeon. And I know some of you have tried Archeon. I really like it. It's a paid website, and I think oops, sorry, that's for later. I think I've explained it before in here. but I'm just going to go there quickly. And so, like I said, it's paid, but if this is the only place that you can find your ancestors' church records, then it's absolutely worth it. And you can always check first. Hold on, let me just put it in English so it has one of the little language options. You can just switch it over to English. And now you can see search. I'm gonna search and location or text, it's both of them. Entmansberg. I think, let me just double check on that spelling there. Entmansberg. Okay. Oh, 2 N's. And it wasn't in the beginning. Sorry, I just put my double letters in the wrong place. Okay, so it's not here. So if that was the place you're looking for, then you know that it's not here and you don't have to worry about paying for it. So this example of Wolfsbach is actually one that haven't found the records for yet, and I just wanted to point out, if this is the situation of your family, that there are many places that it could have been, then you want to check all of them until you find your ancestors. And just a simple strategy, make a list, whether it be a digital document or a paper document, of all of them. Look for digital images on Matricula or Archeon or Family Search, and Ancestry as well. I think Ancestry's catalog function is not as easy to navigate as these other ones, but they do have a lot of really great records on Ancestry. So anyways, you want to mark, do they have digital images for these places? If they do, then you want to search all of those ones first. And once you've ruled them out, then you're going to look at which ones, the ones that don't have digital images. So the first Wolfsbach that we looked at, we didn't find digital images for that anywhere. And so we would want to do a Google search, try to find the parish, and if there's an email address, to email the pastor and say, hey, I'm looking for my ancestors. These are their names. I believe they attended your parish. I'd like to pay you for your services or make a donation to your church, because we always want to be very generous and grateful for our help, the help from anybody who helps us find records. And so kind of explain the situation first. And sometimes they already have a policy in place, or they'll say, oh, those records are at an archive. And that's a lot easier, because the archive, they have people there who are experienced with the handwriting, and they have a protocol. You know, if somebody from overseas asks for research, this is how they pay us, this is how much, and this is how we're going to work that all out. So sometimes there will be an archive available. Sometimes you'll have to go to the local parish level and ask for them to do that. I speak German, so I just write them in German. But on occasions when I've had to request records from churches in countries where I don't speak the language, I put it in Google Translate, which is a better idea now than it used to be, but it still could be dicey. So if you do know somebody who can like help you and just make sure that it says what you want it to say, that would be helpful. Another thing that I do is I'll put the translation into the foreign language, and then I will put the English version that I wrote, because in a lot of places there's somebody that speaks English. So if they get an email and they're like, I don't think that's what they wanted to ask me, they said they wanted to murder my family or something. That's just a funny comedy sketch that I saw about Google Translate. Um, then they might be able to read it in English and or translate it in some other way. So I just like to put those two options if I'm not confident in the language where I'm writing. Okay, so like I said, this one I haven't figured out yet where those records or where this person is from, which one, and written for them or anything. But you always want to be very kind, because some places they are very happy to help with family history. Other places they're not as happy, and you just want to be very kind and professional about it, and um, hope for the best. Pray if that's a thing you do. um, just because sometimes even on the other end they might have a hard time finding it. Okay, so that's kind of the compact version of church records. And there's actually another great way to find church records. This one I'm not too versed in, but it's Hanson's Map Guides, Finding Records with Parish Maps. And these ones, this is a 48-minute presentation from Family Search about how to use these. And then there's also these documents here that kind of like give it step by step in writing. And so these are a very helpful research or resource. Also, Dana Palmer gave a Roots Tech presentation on beginning German research, which I recommend that you check out. I'll try to put the link into the video in case you want to check out hers. There are tons of German research presentations that were included in Roots Tech 2021. They're free for anybody to watch online. So if you're looking for even more German goodness, check those out. There are a lot of great presenters and researchers on there. But this collection, Map Guides to German Parish Registers, is it takes kind of like a section and has listed like by location where these people went to church. And so this is a really great resource if you are having trouble finding those records. Sometimes it's as simple as just opening up Myers Gazetteer and you find the records right away, but sometimes it requires a bit more digging. In this place that I'm researching right now, it was not so straightforward. The family went to this place, which was closer to one parish, and it seemed like they should have been there, but they were actually in one that was quite a bit farther away. But they worked closer to the one that was far away, and so maybe that's why they attended church there. So there are so many really great resources, and church records I just feel are the foundation of German research, but I'm gonna introduce you to a couple of other just really fun ones that I've come across in my time researching. One thing when I started doing German research that I didn't think I was going to have to do was big city research. I was like, oof, that just sounds like a nightmare, especially Berlin. And I was told Berlin is a terrible place to research. But actually, that's where not my direct ancestors, but my cousins are from, and they're currently the only connection that I have to my direct ancestors. So I ended up doing a lot of research in Berlin and a lot of research closer to the present. And one fun record set that I ended up using was the residency records. Fun little background on this. Today, if you visit Germany for more than 3 months, you have to register with the town and say, hi, I'm here. This is where I'm from. You give this information on yourself because they want to keep a record of who's in their town. And when you leave, then you say, I'm leaving and this is where I'm going, whether you're returning back home or going to, moving to a different city in Germany. I did this when I lived in Germany for 4 months. I don't think I ever told them I was leaving because I just wasn't familiar enough with the process. I don't know if I ever told them I was leaving, so they might still think I'm there, and that would be really weird. But they have this great system, and it actually dates back quite a ways. If you've done earlier New England research, it's like vagrant records. New England towns were very close. Your people were your people, and you take care of your people, but you don't want other people coming in to mooch off of your resources or do you harm. And so if people came through the towns, they would write notes. They're like, hey, this guy showed up. Turns out he's so-and-so's cousin, and he'll be staying there. And this man is responsible for him. So if anything goes wrong, if that guy causes any trouble, his cousin who took him in is responsible for that because he basically let him into the community, where if he didn't know anyone in the community, they might have sent him back. So a similar thing, they want to make sure that they know who's in their home, and they just have a record. They don't want people causing trouble. Outsiders sometimes were just like cause of anxiety. So some German cities have this. The earliest that I've seen or heard of was in like late 1700s, like very late 1700s. I think most around the 1850s is a more common time period to be able to access them. So this one is a lot more recent. It's from someone from my family, and it's a residency record, and I had to email the town hall and I said, hey, I'm looking for this. And because it was so recent, I had to give a signed limited power of attorney document saying that this person is deceased, but their daughter gave me permission to request this record. But for older historical records, which is mostly what we'll be dealing with, or you will be dealing with your families, in a lot of cases, they'll just look it up, or they might say it's in an archive. If I'm ever having a hard time finding what archive things might be in, I just email the town and I'm like, hey, when did your town start keeping these records? And they might say, oh, I have no idea, but everything that's too old is in this archive, and I can just go there. So this is a residency record, and I've blanked out the name, and I will zoom it in so that we can see the cool information that's on here. And okay, so here's the surname, the family name, and this record is for a woman. And one thing that I found really cool about Germany is that in recent years, I'm not sure how recent, but I feel like in most places from at least mid 1800s, they're very diligent in keeping track of a woman's maiden name. And so I left this part visible, GEB. That stands for geboren, and that means the name that the person was born with. In some places, when a person moved to a farm or when they inherited a farm through their wife, they would take the surname of that farm or their wife's surname. And so that's a situation where you might see geboren on a man, just meaning like this is the name he was given at birth, but now he's going by this name. In a lot of cases, they were good about keeping track of those things, which is incredibly helpful to us today. So this record has some awesome information. So this woman, she lived, she was born in 1889 in Berlin and moved to Ulm. This is Ulm, ULM, She moved there in 1965. And this record, this town is saying, hey, she moved to our town on this date. And this is where she lived. Here it says she was living with her son at the time, and it has his name there. Here they made a note. She died in 1971. And then there's some more information on her up here. She was divorced, but they still put her marriage information. It's I just really I really love these records. A lot of times you're not going to end up using them. You won't need them, or they won't be available in your area. But if you do have the opportunity to use them, then they can just give you all this amazing information. And in this case, the marriage in 1915 in Posen, I was really frustrated because every time I looked for this family, all they told me was Posen, Posen, Posen. Posen is a very large province. It is a county and it's a big city. And the family tradition has it that they were from the countryside in Posen. So they were from a village outside of the city. So seeing this was just frustrating. It's like, oh, dang it, another record, and they're just giving me their province or county or nearby city. I don't even know. But when I requested the divorce record to see if they gave better information on the city, and they said, the divorce records are available only by legal necessity. And it doesn't matter how you're related to them. If it's not legally necessary, we will not give it to anybody. And I just said, well, I don't actually want it. I just want to know where they were married. And they said, it says in the civil registry in Posen. So I was like, oh, okay. So maybe there is some hope in the city of Posen, because that's the record that was there. And sorry, that might sound a bit like a tangent, but I just wanted to show you like a bit of diversity of record from different time periods. And another great place for records. I didn't state this at the beginning, but if you've watched any of my other lectures that I've ever presented, you know that I highly encourage everybody to search the big databases. Just do a quick search to see if your ancestor pops up. Because if they are indexed in some big database like Ancestry or Family Search, you want to find them. You will have your fair share of opportunities to do hard things. So take the easy pickings, but then make sure you verify them. So civil registration records, I talked about those as a just early on when we were talking about Balin, and that they list the civil registry. And in most cases, the civil registry is in the place. It's kind of like New England. If you want the death certificate of somebody who died in Wolfsboro, then you want to go to the Wolfsboro Town Hall or City Hall. I'm not sure the status. And so it's a lot like that. And if it was too small, then you want to just check Myers Gazetteer, and it might say, actually, it was in Warendorf, not in Balin. So, and let's just have a quick sneak peek at a civil registration record. And a quick note, if you have ancestors from Alsace-Lorraine, the French, German-speaking French cantons, they generally had civil registration records a lot earlier because they were occupied, because they were French territory, and the French started civil registration much earlier than the Germans in general. German civil registration started in 1874, and French the ones that I've seen was 1792 or 3. Um, and so it's also a great time period when you have civil registration, because you have 2 sets of records to search through, and you can verify. Sometimes one has more information than the other. So I'm going to show a pretty typical format for a civil registration record. So going in here, just going to do search all collections, and just a quick one that I know is from Berlin. Okay, so here we have a civil registration record from Berlin, and a lot of them, this one is from 1917, and they're kind of in this pre-typed format. So they have like, this person appeared, and and this is where he's from. He told us that Lucy Rieger, born Heidke, so this is the death of a young baby. And in this particular time period, this record is great because it gives both parents and the mother's maiden name. And in this particular time period, there are also church records available, both on Family Search and Archeon. And it was really fun to be able to cross-reference those. So your 2 big record sets, depending on the time period, church records are almost all time periods that you're going to worry about. Civil registration, if it's available, is awesome. And then depending on the region and the time period, you might be able to find other records. And if you look on Family Search, sometimes, sorry, we'll go back to our Family Search catalog. And I'm going to use Berlin as an example again, just because it has a lot of extra sources. And yes, so Berlin and Brandenburg. And so in the Family Search catalog, as I've described it before, it's a big library, and one of the easiest ways to view it is organized by topic. And so you can come see different resources they have. In here we can look at court records or city directories. And so look in here, look on the Family Search Research Wiki by your location, because if there are other record sets that are less common or specific to that region, then they might be listed there. So there are so many different things, but you want to just try to start with the church records, because those are the most widespread record, and they're often quite good. Beyond that, if you need any help further sorting it out, then we can look into other sources. But those are some ways that you can find your ancestors in the German records. And I hope that this presentation has been helpful. And I will now close this out. This has been Come Sail Away. Please feel free to leave any questions or comments, questions in the comments. And this video will only be available for a limited amount of time. Okay, we're back to us, friends. Do we have any questions? Anything that you would like to know more about? Make sure to unmute yourself if you do.
So Corinne, you said records only, civil records only started 1874, is that correct?
Yeah, generally, some places did have them earlier, but in general, the 1874 is when you would more likely be able to count on that as a source.
Okay. The book I was looking at started at 1874. I thought perhaps it was a war issue that made earlier ones not present, but it's just when they started. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
You're welcome.
How would you see this video again if you wanted to watch it, or the one that you said you did before this?
So Dee has put them on the Wolfboro Public Library. Also, they're on YouTube, probably for another month. I'll just take them down if I run into a conflict with any conference applications, because sometimes they say, if this content is available online, we don't want you to ask to speak about it here. So I would just take it down to have that opportunity. But yeah, so I think you should be able to just search the channel on YouTube. It's called Moses Genealogy. And I can put in the comment the link to the previous videos that are already up. So let me just get those links real quick.
I would like to introduce the Family Search catalog.
Oh, it's playing. Sorry. I was like, who's that? That's me. Okay, let me see. How do I share this? Share with a link. Let's copy that one. Okay, so send this to everyone. Okay, that's one. And now we will.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll put the link to the other one as well. And the channel that those are on, Moses Genealogy, is where you'll be able to find the next one as well. It'll probably take me a few days to get it up. It just takes a bit of time to convert the whole thing over and then put it up with whatever tags and titles it needs. So I'll share that one. Okay, and there's the link to the second one.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And like I said, also, I'm going to put up, I don't know if you all heard about Roots Tech 2021, but it was completely virtual. So many speakers on different types of genealogy. And one really cool thing was that we had the opportunity to hear from speakers in a lot of different countries and a lot of different experts. And most of the videos are 20 minutes, are around 20 minutes long. And if they needed a longer time to teach what they were teaching, then they would do it. Then they did it in segments. So it's a lot more manageable. It was designed to be, you know, ready for everybody to get as much as they could out of it without overwhelming. So I will send the link to the home page there. I have a presentation, but it's in Portuguese. It's about research in the island of Madeira, in case you know anybody that needs that in their life. Okay, and in the presentation I mentioned, actually, I will look that one up and put the link for you. A presentation by Dana Palmer. She was one of the researchers that did. She has a presentation called Useful Tools for Finding German Ancestors. And I actually learned some things from her presentation, and I was like, I need to share this with other people. This is great, concise, just gives you some helpful resources. Oh, another thing that I should have said in the video portion of this, but I will tell you now, is I don't, sometimes if you look in the Family Search catalog, you'll find a, hold on, I'm gonna share the screen again real quick. Okay. This one, do it. Okay, so I mentioned the German map guides, Hansen's map guides, and if you Google them, they're available for purchase. So if you find one that is helpful for your area of research, go for it. But I was wondering, how available would they be to people on the East Coast? And I searched it in WorldCat. So worldcat.org is like a library. Helps if you spell it right. Is like a library catalog for, I don't know if it has every library in the US or it has some out of the country, but I don't know how comprehensive it is. But it's a very great resource if you are looking for a book that is rare, which in genealogy, you probably do a lot. So I just put in his name, Kevin Hansen. And so here are a bunch of listings for his map guide books, Kingdom of Bavaria, Province of Rhineland. So I just did a quick test on the Kingdom of Prussia, Province of Silesia, and Breslau. And down here, find a copy in the library. So, so if you put in an East Coast zip code,
3853.
sorry, I didn't catch that, D. But,
But I looked 3853. That's fine.
Yeah. So the closest to New Hampshire is the New England Historic Genealogical Society, which I think you mentioned in the report thing. Was that what you were talking
Right.
about?
It is.
Okay. So that's a big genealogy library in Boston. And so they have a lot of great resources. So if you're ever like, there's some other things I need there, I can check these books out while I'm there. But sometimes you'll find something that's available closer to you than you thought. So it's always worth it to check in WorldCat because you might have more resources than you originally realized. Okay.
I have one quick question. How do you find the address for the parish to write the letter?
Okay, that is an excellent question. And I'm going to, oh, sorry, I forgot you can't see my screen. I'm gonna share my screen again real quick.
Okay.
Okay, and sorry if it gets hard to heal with the the baby in the background. She said, okay, Mom, your presentation's over. I'm done playing in the bedroom. No, that's okay. Okay, so this one was Emtmansberg in B.Y.O.R. So what I've always done is a Google search. And then this one was a Protestant parish. So Emtmansberg, B.Y.O.R. And then a church. So here are some, Myers Gazetteer comes up. But then there are a couple of churches here. And so this one says B.Y.O.R, which I'm guessing might be a nearby place. But I'm gonna look because sometimes it will come up with like other places in the area. But this one's address is Emtmansberg. And in this case, it's the Google Map entry has a website option. So if we click on that, then this is the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Emtmansberg. And oh, here's a tip that I'm gonna make into a YouTube video because I found this out one day, and maybe it's common knowledge, but it just made my day. So when you get to a page in a different language, it usually Google Translate will say, do you want this in German or English? And you can just click on English. Sometimes I accidentally just X out of it. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, try to go back to it. But Google's like, no, you made that choice. You're stuck with it. You're not stuck with it. If you ever are on a page that you need to translate, but it's not giving you the option, right click, translate to English.
All right.
You have all your information in English. And
Great.
I hope that's helpful for you at some point because
Yeah.
it changed my life. Okay, so then from here, you can navigate it in English. And the websites are all, they're all set up different. So sometimes they have like the typical at the top, about us, worship services, contact us. This one looks like we might have to do a little more digging. Maybe under our pastor, it will say, parish office. And here is the email for the parish office, as well as the hours that they're open. Nope, sorry, phone number. Tuesday and Friday morning. That's a little vague, but so that's how I usually start contact is I send an email. And sometimes if I don't hear back in like a week or two, because they're only open Tuesday and Friday mornings, then I'll call them or send another email or write a letter and send it in the mail. Just sometimes it's hard to get in contact, but I found that if you try all the methods and just be apologetic, that it's I've been able to get in contact. And if they weren't able to help me, in a lot of cases, they said, oh, but check this place.
Yeah, I was wondering because some of these churches might be new churches, maybe not, older churches that were there, your ancestors, So,
Exactly. There might have been one church at the time and now there are two or three, or just
right.
In those cases, they might be able to say, oh, sorry, wrong one. This is
Right. This is the one, probably.
we
That's
split
so
off
great.
in 1975 or something.
Yeah, right, exactly. Fantastic. So much to learn and do. Thank you, Corinne.
You're
More
welcome.
questions?
So I wanted to say, if anybody still wants to set up a consultation, feel free to send me an email. I did one with Julie and we just went over some documents and I hardly had to do anything, but because she did such a great job. But I'm happy, if you want to go over some documents or figure out what church your ancestors came from, got me for 30 minutes one-on-one, no charge. So
Very nice.
yeah, and I'll just throw my email in the chat in case you don't have it already. It's just Moses Genealogy. Okay.
Okay. Thanks to everyone that came this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you guys for attending. And yeah, hope we're still going to do the interest group on the 3rd Wednesday, right, Dee?
Yes, third Wednesday. That's going to be in June. And the next one, can you believe it's June already?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and we will get back with you on 2-3. It looks like the third Wednesday is the 16th. We may end up maybe switching it down to the 23rd. I'm not sure what our schedule is at Lakes Region. But we'll get back to you. If you look at there's 1,
That
2,
sounds
3,
good.
4, 5 Wednesdays in June. You can see what your schedule is, Corinne, and see what.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything planned for either of those. So we'll talk about that and then
Right.
make it official. And I'm thinking that for the topic, we did a little bit of this, I think, with the handwriting, just kind of vaguely touched on reading a record, but
Huh?
I'm thinking that would probably be a good next step. So if anybody has their hometown and has ancestor records that you want to read, can send a couple over and I can include them in the presentation.
Right.
Just send them to my email. Makes it easier on me and you get some free professional help.
Great. Thank you so much. We are blessed to have that. You do a lot of hard work.
Well, I'm very glad to help and it's fun to see when people are able to find things.
Great. Well, I know Barbara's not here tonight, but I'll pass that on to her.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
And to those that didn't make it. Thank you so much again, Corinne. And thanks to everyone.
You're welcome. And Dee,
Okay.
since
Yes.
I'm still a host, can I keep the meeting going a little bit longer to talk to Isaac?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we'll say goodbye. Each one of us will leave and then you can talk to Isaac.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Isaac, are you still there? Oh, I should stop the recording.